Welcome to Week in One, the fast-paced show that catches you up with the top news stories and interviews featured on eNCA over the past 7 days. My name is Dibuseng Meloe. Let's bring you up to speed. The city of Johannesburg cracks down on hijacked buildings following Marshalltown fire that has claimed the lives of over 70 people. The latest in the Meiwa murder trial this week. Our news teams zoom in on how Power Blackout Schedule 6 is having a ripple effect on crime levels in the country. And political killings in KZN rear their ugly head once again. The city of Johannesburg has begun reclaiming some of its hijacked property. On Wednesday, officials pounced on what should have been Joburg Metro Police Department impound lot. An informal settlement had begun mushrooming in the vacant property. eNCA reporter Hijacked was there and brings us the details.
The city of Johannesburg appears to be going back to its books to figure out how many buildings it owns. Hijacked buildings were brought into the spotlight after 77 people died in a fire that gutted one of the city's buildings in Marshalltown last week. On Wednesday, property that was meant to be an impound yard for the Johannesburg Metro Police was claimed back by the city after it was allegedly hijacked. A police officer is among the arrested suspects.
We were doing an audit and identifying alternative properties that the city owns in order for us to be able to allocate for temporary shelters. Upon the inspection, we then discovered that Denver Impound, which is in the custodianship of JMPD, is indeed one of the facilities that are potentially in the list of being hijacked. Upon arrival, we found contractors, private securities, and they were building structures behind us. Fortunately, through the accounting officer and the JMPD department, as led by politically the MMC and the chief of police, responded swiftly.
The city bought the property in 2019 for 40 million rand.
In the process, the procurement process, there was an argument between JMPD and the administration in saying that it does not make sense for this property to be used as an impound for JMPD. It is not conducive for that purpose. However, due to the political will then, it went through and it became a white elephant. Now, the MMC of Public Safety has been coming to me saying that, Executive Mayor, this is a challenge that we've had as the city. There is this facility. Can we utilize it possibly for the purpose of establishing temporary structures?
Officials say they'll continue with inspections and attempts to reclaim hijacked buildings and land. Hijacked in Johannesburg.
It's been more than 3 years since over 1,000 refugees were moved from Cape Town CBD to 2 large tents in Bellville and Kensington. The national state of disaster required everyone to stay home and off the streets during the COVID lockdown. But even after the state of disaster was lifted, hundreds continue to live in those tents in poor and hazardous conditions. eNCA reporter Aisha Ismail has the story.
This is Paint City in Bellville. Caroline Shemi lives here with hundreds of refugees and more than 200 children. She says they won't leave here unless they are resettled in another country.
What I can say, people here, we are waiting for the UNHCR. They must come and do their job. Anywhere where they were going to take us, anywhere that I'm going to be safe with my family.
She says those living here have barricaded themselves for protection against the cold and criminal elements. Each family has their own structure made with cardboard and wooden pallets. They are close together, which makes it a fire hazard. But Shemi says no cooking is allowed inside and meals are prepared outside in the makeshift kitchen. And while some have agreed to be repatriated, some of those who chose integration have returned to the tents after 3 months of being supported financially during that time by the UNHCR. Gideon Andeka, who stays with a smaller group of refugees in Kensington, says he's prepared to go anywhere.
we want to, the UN to send us to the 10th country. No matter where is the camp of refugee, the matter is in Malawi, the matter is Zimbabwe or Botswana or Namibia.
Why don't you want to stay in South Africa?
In a lot of trouble here, and I don't see effort of government to stop this crime. Is every day is growing. You can go to location now. Is every day is the crime. The foreigner, the one is a victim of all those things.
He says they sought refuge in South Africa after running away from atrocities in their own countries.
We found another one again. We are traumatized.
Home Affairs Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says he's tried everything possible to assist the two groups in Cape Town, with the help of the UNHCR and the International Organization for Migration. But he says they continue to protest.
And what is more, they even destroyed the facilities that were there, ablution facilities, in order for us to look very bad.
Motsoaledi says their hands are tied when it comes to evicting refugees.
Now, as I'm talking here in front of you, we need to evict them. But unfortunately, as Home Affairs, we are not landlords. The landlord is the Department of Public Works and the Cape Town Metro. And I must state here publicly that the Cape Town Metro is not cooperating with this issue. When you discuss with them, they tell you it's a Home Affairs problem. So we need to evict those people. But to evict them legally, we need eviction papers. And eviction papers are applied for. And we have asked the city many times.
The City of Cape Town says it's looking into the matter and will respond when the relevant information is collated and verified. Aisha Ismail, Cape Town.
A new witness has made an about-turn on his evidence implicating at least two of the accused for Senzo Meiwa's murder. His evidence followed the cross-examination of the lead investigator, Thabo Mosia, who was recalled to the stand this week. The High Court in Pretoria also heard from new state witness this week, Police Officer Sizwe Zungu. eNCA reporter Manqoba Nkunu was in court.
I know Muzi, he is my neighbor back home.
Afika, case number 2. Gadla, case number 3.
And then it is Mtogozisi. I also remember him from First Loras. Then it's Nkani.
That is one of the shocking revelations in the Senzo Meiwa murder trial, as Police Constable Sizwe Zungu linked 5 of the accused to the shooting. Zungu described how he knew the suspects and how he had been invited to a gathering at a First Loras hostel on the day Meiwa was killed.
You mentioned that there were other people from back home. Who were those people?
Accused number 1 was there. Accused number 2 was there. Accused number 3 was there. It was very nice. We were having very much fun. And we had a lot of meat.
He says the accused disappeared at some point, returning in haste.
Later that day, between 8:30 and 9:30, accused number 1, 2, and 3 came in following each other. It was quite clear, or they were showing that they were in shock and they were fast. I stood up and followed them. Accused number 1 was carrying a firearm of a 38 revolver. Accused number 3 was in possession of a 9mm.
Previously, the court heard that one of the intruders had been wearing a hoodie on the night of the shooting. Zungu says the accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, had been wearing a similar jacket at the time.
I then noticed that he had changed jackets, that he was now wearing a grey jacket.
You say you noticed that the accused was wearing a grey jacket from the black one. Can you just describe the black jacket that he had?
I was following them as they entered the house. I saw that he was wearing a black jacket.
Yes, but what type of jacket was it?
Zungu says he later reported his suspicion to his seniors a few years later, which was followed by threats to his life. He recalled a celebration he saw on the night of the murder.
They came back and they had firearms and celebrating his death.
Yes. How was it celebrated?
With a bottle of whiskey.
The trial continues on Friday. Manqoba Nkunu, Pretoria.
The Interministerial Committee investigating political killings in KwaZulu-Natal says establishing a special court to prosecute long-delayed murder cases will help clear the backlog. Police Minister Bheki Cele briefed the media in Durban this week about the work of the task team investigating political killings in the province. Several councillors have been gunned down in the province in the past few weeks. eNCA reporter Siphamandla Goge filed this report.
52 councillors have been gunned down in KwaZulu-Natal since 2011. But that's not all.
Investigations of the political killings by the task team have revealed that the most affected political parties are the ANC, IFP, and NFP. From the 52 murder cases of councillors, 31 ANC councillors were killed, while 14 were IFP and 4 NFP, 2 EFF and 1 ACDP. While 52 councillors have been gunned down since 2011, to date, alarmingly, 103 officials working within municipalities and as political office bearers and officials of political parties were killed.
Minister of Police is convinced that the task team that is investigating political killings in the province is doing a great job, as it has cracked some of the long-delayed cases.
So far, the work of the task team has resulted in the arrest of 348 suspects who have already been charged on 233 cases. 62 suspects have been convicted, while 155 are going through the court process. 17 arrested suspects have since died during the court processes.
With the country gearing up for the elections next year, police say they are worried about the ongoing killing of councillors and politicians in KZN, but they've committed to cap the scourge to ensure a safe environment for political activities. Siphamandla Goge, Durban.
Shortly after the break, we feature some of the topical and talked about interviews done by our anchors. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to Week in One. My name is Dibuseng Meloe. The issue of buildings and shack fires has been a major concern in South Africa for some time now. eNCA anchor Gareth Edwards spoke to senior researcher in fire engineering at Stellenbosch University, Dr. Natalia Flores-Quores, for more on this burning issue.
I want to ask, get your thoughts, Doctor, as well on this structure specifically, but now we're starting to get a better sense, other buildings in the Joburg CBD, and I'm sure there's other areas around the country. Right now, we're just focusing on the Joburg CBD, having what is an informal settlement, isn't it? It's shacks, it's informal settlements inside of these buildings. How do you begin to explain, as a fire engineer, how dangerous that is? I mean, it's only a matter of time. I hope I'm wrong, but it's only a matter of time until there's another massive fire in one of these buildings.
You know, unfortunately, you're not wrong. It's very complicated. It's a very complicated situation, because if you are living in a building like that in those conditions, it's just a matter of when, not if. It's gonna be the candle, it's gonna be the stove, it's gonna be whatever, an electric failure, and so it's very complicated. And I think, at least in informal settlements, that like not in this type of informal settlements in a building, people have more time to react. The smoke doesn't really concentrate in just one small enclosure. So maybe, even though it can be terrible as well and it can affect a lot of dwellings, I don't think that we usually see so many fatalities. So I would say that these type of buildings are much more complicated than what we are often seeing in the other informal settlements.
Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi has established a commission of inquiry following a deadly blaze in the Joburg CBD that claimed at least 77 lives. The inquiry will also look into the prevalence of hijacked buildings and seeks to determine who should be held responsible for the tragedy. Lesufi spoke to eNCA anchor Tumelo Mototwane.
You're making the point around the next reason why this commission is equally important. Let's please pick up there.
Yeah, the next reason being everyone does not know who should be held accountable, who should take the blame, and who should account to society for what has happened. An independent person will be in a position to assist and guide us. And that's the reason why we felt that a retired judge is better positioned to find and also guide us who's responsible. The third, which is very, very crucial, is the hijacked buildings. People have been making various accusations that this happened a long time ago, that there are mafias or gangsters controlling or hijacking buildings. We need to get the modus operandi and also get guidance from a judge on how best to resolve the matter within the confinement of the law. And to come back to our question, I really believe that a commission of inquiry can assist us. I know South Africans are fatigued by commission of inquiries, but I felt that this is very important so that we can get this information as quickly as possible. It doesn't stop, as per our communique, it doesn't stop the SAPS to do their work. It doesn't stop the public protector to do their work. But we really felt that an independent individual, assisted by people of impeccable credentials, can be in a position to find the solution and the answers that all of us are still asking ourselves.
South African municipalities have been in financial distress for years, and most municipalities across the country are on the brink of collapse, forcing frustrated communities to take to the streets to demand services. eNCA anchor Tami Ngubeni had this conversation with Dr. Johandri Wright from the University of the Western Cape.
Yeah, you were taking us through the challenges that municipalities are facing. Please do go ahead.
We need to also remember that municipalities had quite a bit of shocks lately in terms of disasters. So a lot of municipalities had extensive droughts and others had extensive floods. We also had quite a bit of, the unrest in 2021 with a huge pandemic that was, although we have disaster risk management in place, it's not really something that could have been foreseen at the time that we would have something quite as extensive, which all leads to financial implications for municipalities.
What role should provincial government and perhaps even national government be playing in supporting municipalities?
Provincial and national government does actually have a oversight and supervision role in municipalities, which means they should not just, have a stick and hit municipalities when they're not doing what they're supposed to, but they also have to play a very important supportive role. And not just financially. It's not just a question of bailing out municipalities where there's not enough money. It is also having skills, and province has an overview of what's happening within all of the municipalities in the province. So perhaps when one municipality is performing well and another one isn't, province could maybe investigate what works for this municipality to try and learn lessons to teach the other municipalities and have like a peer learning system. So national governments and provincial governments can play a more active role in helping municipalities without imposing on their autonomy and prescribing to them what must be done, but rather play a more capacitative role.
Coming up, we look at the impact that the return of Blackout Schedule 6 is having on crime levels in certain communities. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to Week in One. My name is Dibuseng Meloe. Now, residents of Umlazi F section are the latest to pile pressure on eThekwini municipality. The under fire metro is being accused of failing to provide basic services. They say their water and sanitation issues are still unresolved. eNCA's Letiwe Mdluli has the story.
For 10 years, residents of Umlazi F section haven't had running water. This community relies solely on water tankers. Their frustrations are high.
Lama water tanker, they come once or twice a week. Sometimes if you after 2 weeks, depending, but she requested from a councillor, then they say it's literally water tank, but it is a struggle for 10 years.
Amanzi asisena for 10 years. Siloke strugglation nje sizama ukuthi nenslu ilunge inkinga yethu manje ayilungi.
Their attempts to contact the municipality over the past 10 years have been unsuccessful. They have written to the office of the mayor and spoken to the head of department.
Ayikho iminyango esingayingenanga ngalamanzi. Ngisho ubaba weTheku qobo lakhe before COVID sambhalela incwadi sasayina sonke zakhamusala ngebhadi asibaningi ngoba abantu bayasebenza. Inkinga amanzi amakhansela asengene ishintshana ngathi after 5 years, more than 10 years. Shunja akekho sinakile kahle kahle ngoba imeya iyalwazi lolu daba, amakhansela ayalazi lolu daba.
The head of water and sanitation, Ethnic Msweli, says the problems facing Umlazi have to do with a water pipe that needs to be fixed. He says funds have been a problem.
Over time, they've aged and they're in poor condition and they need to be replaced. So we are busy with that bigger project. I'm just giving that background because that is what will ultimately solve the problem in Umlazi. So that project is estimated that it will cost about R1 billion. So council has allocated some funding towards that project.
Lethiwe Thuli, Durban.
Busisiwe Mkhwebane says her protectors were instructed to withdraw their services when she wanted to report for work this week. She insists her suspension by President Cyril Ramaphosa has run its course. eNCA reporter Moloko Moloto has the latest on the story.
Upon her arrival at the Hillcrest Office Park in Pretoria, the writing was on the wall for the suspended public protector. Additional security guards manned the entrance. Mkhwebane did not even try to get in.
But the twist of things is that now the leadership in the police service have told my protectors they can't be held responsible. It's like I'm defiant, and unfortunately they cannot allow them to be involved in such, and apparently I was going to be blocked, or the police can't allow me to enter the office.
President Cyril Ramaphosa said in a letter on Monday that Mkhwebane has no right or entitlement to return to the office pending his decision that will follow the National Assembly's resolution about her fitness to hold office. Mkhwebane insists the president is wrong.
I would say to the president, redraft that presidential minute, because I said presidential minute supersedes the letter which he wrote. The letter which he wrote was saying until the finalization of the National Assembly process. You understand? But then the minute is saying the inquiry. So the inquiry is complete. So then what I would say, issue the corrected presidential minute. And that's it.
Mkhwebane hit back at her deputy and stand-in Koleka Gcaleka, who says her suspension remains in effect.
I mean, it's so embarrassing, and as well, it shows that it means she is, you know what, she's accused of being a president protector, because she can't be doing that.
Mkhwebane's 7-year non-renewable term of office expires on the 13th of October. Ramaphosa says she must respect constitutional processes that are before Parliament. Moloko Moloto, Pretoria.
Eskom's indefinite implementation of Stage 6 blackouts has created a haven for criminals. Johannesburg residents say their security has been compromised and break-ins, hijackings and smash and grabs have all increased. eNCA reporter Bafedile Mwerani has more.
It's a dire state of affairs for South Africans. Residents have been left frustrated with hours of darkness, increases in crime and gridlocked traffic.
You know, we've been sitting in traffic for over an hour. The second day in a row, Stage 6 load shedding has really had such an impact on our lives and businesses. So it's very frustrating as a South African.
Yesterday it took me an hour to get the child to school, a trip that normally takes 20 minutes.
Security is also severely compromised amid prolonged blackouts.
It's not safe at night. We can't even drive because we can't see, the street lights are off. So it makes it easy for them to steal, more especially at our houses.
Power cuts have dented private security companies' ability to tackle crime.
But the biggest factor from load shedding, it's affecting our pockets. Instead of buying more torches, more equipment, more tools, we're buying diesel. We've got huge generators that's running, and this office alone was 23,000 Rand last month for diesel, just for the generator, and we could have used that on crime prevention programs. We could use it on more torches. We're going to use it on better ways, but it's going in the generators. So it's affecting the crime severely.
Following Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa's address on Tuesday, the country still has a long way to go before the electricity crisis is dealt with. I'm Bafetile Mwerani, Johannesburg.
And that's it for this week's edition of Week in One. From myself and the rest of the team, have a great weekend.